What are the tuples in C#? In this video, I'm going to discuss the tuples. What is the difference between the two main types, the ValueTuple versus the tuple class, the maximum number of elements that a tuple can hold, and how you can overcome that limitation if you have to. And finally, how you can use tuples to improve your code performance. What are the tuples in C#? The tuples in C# are a lightweight data structure which allows you to group multiple data elements into a single compound unit. And they allow you to return multiple values from a method without creating a separate class or structure. Now let's take a look at the code example. Inside our main method, I create three different tuples. The first one is an example of a tuple class. The second one is a ValueTuple, and the third one, the last one, is an example of a named ValueTuple. The tuple class was the original one. The ValueTuple was introduced in C#7, and the ValueTuple and the named ValueTuple are the two types that you are most likely to use in your code from now on. But first, let's run the program and see what the output is. Okay, each one of the tuples has three elements, integer, string, and integer, which is the ID, the name of the person, and the age. And we access each one of the elements in the case of the tuple class and the ValueTuple by using the item number. And the items inside the tuple start from 1. So we're using item 1, item 2, and item 3 to print to the console. And again, in the ValueTuple, we are using again item 1, item 2, and item 3. And in the case of the named ValueTuple, we are using the actual names. We're using the name ValueTuple ID, the name ValueTuple name, and the age. And this is what the output is. You can see that we have the ID, name, and age printed to the console for each one of our three tuples inside the main method. What is the difference between the tuple class and the ValueTuple in C#? The tuple class is a reference type. It is immutable, and it's also slower with higher memory usage, and you cannot name the elements. The ValueTuple, on the other hand, is a value type. It is mutable. It is also faster with lower memory usage. And if you want to name your elements, you can use the named ValueTuple and do so. The ValueTuple was introduced in C#7, and it is the one that you're most likely to use in your code. There are several ways you can instantiate a tuple. Let's show them quickly. You can use the create method, as we are doing right here for the tuple class, but you can use it for the ValueTuples as well. Let's do that. And you can use the same method for the named tuple. Since the named tuple is also a ValueTuple, so you can use the create method, but you can create a tuple class object by using the new keyword. So let's show that quickly. We can just go new tuple, and this is another way to create a tuple. You can use each one of these methods. And now let's quickly discuss the maximum number of elements that you can have on a tuple and what you can do if you need to go over that maximum. The tuples in C# have a limit of 8 items, and you are most likely to never go over that limit. But in case you need to, you can actually do that. First, let's take a look at the tuple constructor, and you can see that it is capable of holding 7 items, and the 8th item is actually a generic type, which means that if you need to overcome this limit, you can actually use nested tuples. You can use a new tuple here as the 8th item and extend the number of items that your tuple holds. But first, let's take a look at the tuple create method. You can see that we are capable of creating a tuple with 8 items. If I try to fit in one more item, I'm going to get an error which says no overload for method create takes 9 arguments. And let's remove the last item. Let's run the code and print the items to the console. You can see the first item is 1 and the last item is 8. And now let's see how you can actually go over the limit and create a larger tuple. Let's do that next. Okay, This is my new tuple. It has 7 integers, and for generic type, I'm using a new tuple with 3 integers as well. And if you want to access the first item, you just do the myTuple item 1, and if you want to access the last item, we're using myTuple rest item 3. Since our generic type is a tuple with 3 items, we need to access the third item in order to print the last item of our myTuple. So let's run the code. You can see the first item is 1 and the last item is 10. Again, you access the last item of the 8th element by using the myTuple rest property item number 3. And now finally, let's see how you can use tuples to improve your code performance and to make it more resource efficient. I have created a statistics class for this purpose, and then we have 2 methods that do essentially the same thing. The first one is calculate stats using class, and the second one is calculate stats using tuple. You can see what each one of these methods do. We take a list of doubles as our input parameter, and we calculate the sum, average, and the max, and then we return, in our first case, in the calculate stats using class, we create a new statistic object with the sum, average, and max properties. And when we are using tuples in our calculate stats using tuple, we simply return a tuple with the sum, average, and max doubles as well. The calculate stats using tuple method actually uses less memory. There is no need for the garbage collection since we have a value type and not a reference type. And also the code inside the method is a little bit simpler and cleaner. When possible, you should use tuples and choose tuples over classes. And I can actually do a very quick benchmarking to demonstrate that the calculate stats using tuple method is actually faster than the method using a class to do essentially the same thing. So let's do that next. Okay, this is what I'm doing inside my main method. First, we create a large list of data which contains doubles, and then we run each one of these 2 methods, the one using class and the one using tuple, 3000 times inside a loop, and we use stopwatch to see how many milliseconds each one of these executions take. So let's run the code. And this is our result. As you can see, the calculate stats using tuple method executes faster. And as I mentioned, it also has less memory overhead and it is a little bit cleaner. And this is why tuples are actually quite helpful in C#. And that is all from me for today. If you like my videos, if you find them helpful, please click the like button and also subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.